Yo, 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 what's up? Welcome back to the Gangsta Rap Odyssey. Today we got Above the Law Legends. We're going to do a review, revisit, whatever you want to call it. Man, I love this record. It came out in 1998. Y'all know Above the Law. They came out under Ruthless Records way back in the day, man. This is their fifth studio album. This one came out under Tommy Boy Records, though. Long it's been since they were on Ruthless Records by the time 1998 rolled around. In 96, Above the Law released their classic and criminally underrated album Time Will Reveal. And I felt like that record should have dropped under Ruthless Records, to tell you the truth. It had MC Ren, Cocaine, Triggerman, and even Kid Frost. And it did not disappoint, man. It's like ADL didn't skip a beat after leaving Ruthless. So, expectations were pretty high. So, Above the Law. The first time I heard Above the Law was I got Uncle Sam's Curse, the tape, and I didn't know what to expect, but man, I love that record. It was so dope. And of course, by then I was just buying anything that had Ruthless Records on the tape. That was my thing. So Above the Law Legends, though, we know expectations were high. I mean, look what they did in '96, man. ATL already was a legendary group by this point. The music, it was that music that separates the men from the boys, right? Or the boys from the men, whatever. Above the Law was that. You didn't find ATL in your girl's car, but you did in your homies. Am I right? That's right. So with a couple years doing their thing under Tommy Boy, Hutch was, already in a new home. There was no creative direction by Eazy-E in any capacity. And it was all on Hutch's shoulders now. So I'm still not convinced that Eazy didn't have his fingerprints on Time Will Reveal when you listen to it. I get that Ruthless vibe, man, for sure. And as far as creative direction goes, this was all Hutch. Now at this point. So, how long has it been since they've been on Ruthless at this point? 98. They probably got booted in 94, I'm guessing, or no, wait, 90, 95, 96, something like that. Probably 95. But they've been away from Eazy because he's been passed away, of course, for a good 5 years at this point. So, all in all, man, Above the Law Legends, it's a story. I'm going to treat this like a story, like a movie or something, man. And it's like a story of darkness, real conflicts, pain, but also their love for the ladies, because they're the pimp clinic, and that's what the pimp clinic does. There's times where this album just grabs your soul. There's times where it gets brighter, it ups the mood. It's just such an epic ride, man. Is it worthy of Above the Law and worthy of its own title, Legends? Can the group make a gangsta classic without Eazy-E? Without Eazy's command, at least? I don't know, man. Let's dive in and see. All right, let's get into this, man. We start off with that intro, the introduction called Flowetry. It's an interesting intro. I like the rain, the way it starts. It's almost got like this dark carnival vibe, and I like that they started off with the foreign language. That's pretty cool. I think it's foreign language. I don't know if it is or they're just like talking in reverse, but it sounds dope, man. We got Hutch. Then he goes off onto talking about reality and the times back then where rappers were, I mean, this is at least what I remember in my head, that rappers were all over the TV looking flousy with all their fancy shit and whatever. But he throws a little dig at them, saying that they ain't got their publishing rights or whatever, But the whole world seems to think they are a role model, some type of act to follow. And the first thing that comes in my mind is that Puffy is just giving his publishing rights to all their artists, all their publishing rights. So yeah, he's got a point here, and it's kind of interesting how Hutch saw the future, or at least he knew what was really going on back then. So good on him. Pretty cool to think about it like that. It's a good intro. So let's get on to the real shit here. XO with me, the next track here, the first track of the record, man. And when I first heard it, man, I just thought, man, this is so polished. I'm digging the vibe here. Hutch KMG sound like a couple of years off, kind of rejuvenated them. And I'm thinking we're getting some party shit here so far, It starts pretty upbeat, but I was digging it, man. I was digging it, I wasn't sure what type of record we were gonna get, but we're just in the beginning here. You know, this is the beginning of the album. The next track, Set Trippin', though, things kind of get back on that Gangsta track here, man. It's polished just like the last track. It's so polished, man. This whole record, man, everything is just so polished on here. But this one is even mafioso, you know, the haunting guitar strings, the drum machine, a kick and bass, you know, along with that howling sound in the back. It just sets the mood, man. It's one of the best tracks on here, man. It's for sure a crown jewel, man. It's a 5-star track. Some of Hutch's best writing is also done on this track. I love the shit that he says, man. Like, your best night could be your worst night if it don't end up right. You know, just talking about being in the club. You know, doesn't go nowhere before 12:30. It's just some dope shit from Hutch. Some of his best lyrics, man. The evolution of G-Funk, man. I'm starting to get the feel for it here, you know. It's the evolution of G-Funk. It's early in the record, but I feel like the direction Above the Law is going, it's going to be a dark, brilliant record, you know. It's kind of crazy to put those words together, but that's how it feels for me. So, you know, it's followed up by Promise Me, another standout track, man. Like an extension of the last track, since it ends off with a little skit, really. But, you know, the cello, the heavy bass, KMG's signature voice, you know, this is the making of a masterpiece. Like the cover of the record, you know, it's like something that you just want to hang on the wall, like in a museum or some shit. And it's great, man. I love the keys in the back, man. Like they feel scattered at first, but then you understand that there really is some kind of method to it, and it's like, man, what is Hutch doing here, man? Code 187, man. He's dope, man. He's just so dope. And then the singing on this track, I tell you, man, it'll send you chills, man. I loved it, man. I don't know who did the singing. I didn't look at the credits. It's been a while. I used to have this physical CD, but that thing is long gone. Who knows where it's at, man? But this track is A plus, man. You know, we get off onto, you know, the end of the beginning here with like, you know, Be About Your Business is cool, but then we got Clinic News, you know, and after a few shadowy tracks, I feel like we're getting something a little bit more light now. But this is definitely another Above the Law anthem, man. We get some help, some other people. I think it's Haha, and they don't disappoint, man. It's just dope, man. It rounds out the opening of this album. The direction moves to more of a funky, bouncy record in a few minutes, but the way that we've started off the record, I'm pretty impressed. I'm happy with it, and I'm thinking, man, I got my money's worth on this thing. So I love the way it starts. It gets dark, it stays dark for a couple of tracks, but it goes back to being a little bit more lighthearted, almost like the first track. And then the next track, Soliciting, you know, we get into the middle of this project with a little more of the same from the last track, you know, just another bright track with another seductive bass line, if you will, you know, to go with the hook that you just can't help but to just, you know, sing along with, man. It's just crazy. This is another Pimp Clinic anthem. It's directed at the ladies. Above the Law is just really underrated, I think, when it comes to these type of pimp tracks. But, you know, they're the Pimp Clinic, man. But, you know, they are known to be more mafia and more gangsta. But Soliciting is one of their top tracks, man. I definitely give that like five stars or whatever. Then moving along here, Deep as the Root. Damn. Is that not just a dope-ass track, man? It's another 5-star track, man. And, like, we're, like, in this record at this point, man. Like, I'm starting to understand what Hutch is going for, the vibe they're going for. The record, like, it's hitting its stride. It's basking in these beats from Hutch, almost in a hard turn from the spooky early tracks. But Hutch brings so much soul here on Deep as the Root, man. Just so much soul. If you've been an Above the Law fan, then this feels pretty natural, right? You feel like Above the Law is like in your lineage, man, like fam. And this one, I feel like it's definitely for the fans, no doubt. You know, the guitar strings, the classy banjo, and KMG's voice. I mean, what a classic track to remember the great KMG with. You know, the chorus is just brilliant. You know, I say play this song at my funeral, yo. This is one of Above the Law's best songs ever. I don't think it rarely even gets talked about. You know, we talk about Black Superman and California, you know, some tracks from Black Mafia Life, but Deep as the Root has got to be one of their top joints that they've ever made. Like I said, man, it's fucking awesome. Play it at my funeral. It's just a dope track, man. You know, we move on to the streets, you know, and at this point, you know, we're deep into the record, and I think that what we have here is just a vivid memoir of life in the West Coast by these OGs. You know, it's not a crazy violent record, and these guys are just kind of chilling with their gang affiliation, giving them, I think it gives them a lot of creative freedom, tell you the truth. I'm digging it, you know. But, you know, we're going to go ahead and like start moving on here. We're going to reach what I like to think is the end point here. You know, we got a couple tracks like LA Vibe, Worldwide. They don't hit as hard as the other tracks that we've talked, but we get into Karma. And, you know, as this record starts to wrap up, the dark soul just kind of comes back here. And what's so dope about Hutch is the writing he does. It comes from the heart, and you can tell it here on Karma. You know, he's in no mood to like change his style or sell out. You know, it's apparent by now that this record is ATL giving us a look into not so much their gangsta tales, but the facts of what makes their souls. You know, a chunk in time, you know, like even the stories they are writing here point out the consequences of their own gang life or gang life in general, the hustler world that they've survived and thrived in. So Karma, it's a badass track. I love it. And we get a little bit more on the next track, you know, following Soul Searching. Oh, geez. It makes that, you know, what we just thought, or what I just said, crystal clear, you know, the Soul Searching, you know, KMG, just to stand out right here, just to stand out. And Yuckmouth, who I think is so well versed in rapping about past struggles. It's just a perfect track. This classic is a forgotten track. I think when people talk about good Yuckmouth collaboration tracks, I think people forget about this one. I think the song is just another somber masterpiece. You know, it's G-Funk with soul, man. G-Funk with soul. You know, we got Adventures of, which is pretty dope. You know, I don't know, man. I gave it like 3.75 stars or whatever. And then we get to the final track here, In God We Trust. The final, I think this one is really more dedicated to the Ruthless Heads. It sounds a little bit more familiar for what we're used to from Hutch. And then it's just such a dope beat, man. You know, and you can almost call Hutch an OG rapper, you know, the way he's spitting on here. It's pretty dope, man. It's old school. But ironically, while he mocks like freestyle rappers, he sounds like he's freestyling almost, man. It's dope. The cherry on top, of course, is Big Rock, you know, MC Ren's homie. It's dope that they got him on here. It's just another one of these ruthless guys that never got a solo drop. But there's no doubt he's remembered, man. He's that classic homie of MC Ren, you know, like See Mind Blown or Shot Caller on Ruthless for Life, or, of course, Villain in Black. But yeah, it was dope to get Big Rock on here. Not a lot of big features on this record. I did like the Yuckmouth on here. We got J.O. Felony, actually. I forgot to mention that. J.O. Felony was on the first track, and that was crazy, man. J.O. Felony was, he was pretty dope back then. I mean, I don't know if he's still dope. I haven't heard much of him lately, but I remember back then he was, I think this was prior to Def Jam or right when he was hitting Def Jam. So we got a few features on this record that later on would have probably been more sticker worthy. You know, the stickers that they put on that said, oh, featuring whoever. You know, this one would have said featuring J.O. Felony, or not MC Ren, Yuckmouth. And then I guess we could throw in Big Rock there, you know, why not? But the features aren't too over the top. They're pretty good, man. They were very well orchestrated, you know, big fancy word alert there. But I think what we got was not just, I got some leftover tracks here you want to get on. They were pretty well authored. So what Hutch has done here has been nothing short of a masterpiece, really, you know. So, you know, let's talk about this record as a whole, though. You know, this could be one of Above the Law's most polished records, I think. It has a dark groove. It kind of switches up midway through the record, and the upbeat songs, they just stay true to the Pimp Clinic game, you know, that Pimp Clinic sound. It ends deep, like with deep songs that just hit the soul, you know, like we just talked about. And they're thought-provoking, and they leave you knowing, or at least for me, man, they felt like I never heard a track like this. And leave it to Hutch to leave that imprint on you, you know? It's a feeling that you can only get from listening to this record and this record alone. You know, you want this record to be bigger, but there's something to be said about that, you know, that kept secret, that best kept secret. It's like a treasure, man, and only those who dig for it get it. You know, real recognize real. That's pretty much how it is, you know. Hutch taps into his own creative order and once again just shows that he's like the Jedi of G-Funk. You know, his saga, it may never be as bright again as it was around this time, but for me, it's a dope way to kind of remember KMG. And every now and then, it's still dope to see Hutch drop new shit, you know, on well, pretty much on social media or, you know, SoundCloud or whatever, you know. But the way I like to remember this record is, I know it's not KMG's last, but I think it's a great send-off, you know, to the homie KMG. You know, rest in peace. I don't know what else I could really say about this record. It's dope, man. I'm going to give it 4 stars, 4 out of 5 stars. I think that it's a underrated album. It is a classic for sure, but if I had to rate it among other classics, at least in the Above the Law library, I think Uncle Sam's Curse and Time Will Reveal edge it out. But this might be their most polished album. You know, the creative direction that Hutch had here, I mean, just the freedom from it, you could hear it, man. You could hear it on every note. There's not a wasted second on this record. There's no skits. I mean, there's some little skits in the songs, but there's no tracks that are just like skits. I love it. You know, I just feel like it's a dark, polished record, man. You know, with some pimp clinic scattered here and there. I think this record is an iconic one from the West Coast. You should have it. Check it out on Spotify. Hutch is still doing it, man. Follow him on social media. Follow his shit. You know, he's got some records out too. I'm happy every time he drops some shit. You know, Hutch is a legend, man. And I think that this album is on some Hall of Fame shit for real, man. Like if there's a Gangsta Rap Hall of Fame, you want to put this up there. And if it was a wall, yeah, you would definitely have Above the Law on there, just like the cover is. Like a painting on a painting, man. So 4 out of 5 stars. Get this record. If you like the review, you know, subscribe to the show. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you like this record? Is it a classic? Where does it rank among Above the Law's records, man? I'm going to say, for me, this is probably my 3rd favorite album from Above the Law. You know, I love Time Will Reveal, Uncle Sam's Curse, and then Legends. That's my order, though. That's just my personal opinion. Let me know what yours are in the comments. Hey, check out our podcast if you're checking us out on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review on the Apple Podcasts. If you're checking us out on YouTube, hit that subscribe for us. That helps, I guess. That's dope, though. I love when I see more subscribers. So I'm going to keep doing this. And I appreciate y'all, man. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.